Good evening, this is Erabon. We are glad to communicate through you today and glad that you chose, albeit briefly, the ILC meditation of going up this seven terraced mountain. And we meet you here at the top. On the adjacent clouds, at a meeting place very well suited to our joining this evening. Although it is a bright sunny day up here, as you can plainly see. Yes, much more suitable to this communion of souls, if you will. And we would encourage you to be more receptive, more passive, as much as you are able, maintaining your visualization of this environment. And allowing it to soothe through you, much as this music that's playing in the background. Indeed, it is no coincidence that you were guided to choose music for your PRE table visualization before this and then thus for this session as well. Reminded almost intuitively of the suggestion of some Naya Roman and Dwayne Packer channeling Orin. Your brain is playing cat and mouse with us right now and haggling over meaningless details. You can fill in the blanks through the material channeled in the opening to channel book regarding the suggestion to possibly utilize music, at least as a beginning to your channeling session, to help you set the vibration, an elevated vibration. And we would indeed encourage you not to fight necessarily the temptation to resist yawning, the feeling to yawn, for you are indeed pulling information from the divine, as all do, when experiencing a yawn. A direct access of energy, if you will, from the higher powers above. We are indeed working energetically with you at this time. For there are indeed many energetic manipulations, much as chiropractic manipulations would be adjustments to assist our liaison for the sake of more fluid communication. Indeed, maintain your visualization of the garden, rather the clouds. The white garden of clouds here at the top of the mountain. Almost surpassing the mountain, if you will. The realm above the mountain. The beginning, the first floor, the foothold, the foothills of a whole other level. Up, up, and way beyond. We are here with you now for the sake of discussion. Effectively communicating with you about your soul and the souls of others. We are with you now, much as one would sit at a bus stop, adjacent to another, mere passers-by almost, at a way station of transportation. A wayside beside the massive modes of transportation from one realm to another. And we stop here at the way station to meet one another and talk with one another, so that you may share in the wisdom from beyond. Wisdom of the ancients, if you will. Yes, though time has no meaning here, the connotation of something, some ancient wisdom, hearkening back to a time when there was a firmer connection with the realms beyond. Indeed, one foot in both realms, so to speak. As we are now. Firmly existing in our realm, of course, as we do, yet dipping down, almost diving, if you will, diving to some depths to come down and meet you to a level where when you rise up, you can rise up to this surface beneath the surface, where you see the surface of water above you almost. You can see the fish swimming in the water overhead, and you can swim right up to that surface, and we swim right down from above and look at one another, almost like looking through a mirror and seeing another's reflection. Yes, reflectivity. Reflectivity is outlined in the Urantia book, an incredibly valuable teaching. Something that is indeed practiced regularly in the spirit world, if you will lump virtually all existence aside from your own into that single term. In myriad forms, it is used at all kinds of different levels of existence for the sake of facilitating communication between worlds, between dimensions, if you will. Reflectivity. An interesting idea that an entity can lend a projection of oneself into a dimension for the sake of communication, that can even listen and answer back. A true fragment of the entity, much as you are a projection of your own greater self, your source, your higher self, your superconscious mind, if you will. You are but a small appendage of that mind projecting into your three-dimensional reality, and this is what you call a person. In much the same way, an entity from virtually any realm can project an appendage, much like your amoeba can project a pseudopod out into, through the surface, if you will, like sticking your toe in the water, can project a part of itself, except this part of itself can be like a copy, a miniature, almost a pseudo-self instead of a pseudopod, even having a face and eyes and mouth for the sake of communication, ears for the sake of listening. Kind of like a puppet. A pseudo hand with a puppet. This is a reflection of yourself. Silly analogy, but it definitely works, and that puppet can answer questions, can receive information, and is directly tapped into the greater self beyond, while that greater self is engaged in myriad other activities, other such projections, and many activities which are beyond such analogies. So even though the great entity has its back turned to you, so to speak, engaged in conversation with others, you can indeed carry on a full conversation with that entity through this principle of reflectivity. This principle of one aspect of this grand realm of practices and ideas encompassed under the canopy of reflectivity. We would not have you think at all that this is a single thing, a single practice, something incredibly specific. Instead it is incredibly general. But a nice word, a valuable principle that it is something distinctly different from what you're familiar with, distinctly different from what you practice, other than reflection, looking at your reflection in the mirror, looking at a reflection in the mirror and seeing another. Such as your legends and tales of looking in magic mirrors or mirrors and seeing ghosts or seeing other entities from the beyond. Yes, similar to things practiced in ancient Atlantis, if you will, involving equipment that could be set up. Like a video screen for video conference almost, if you will, but instead visualize a crystal. Like a crystal mirror, if you will, a crystal ball, perhaps. A device allowing, greatly facilitating and solidifying, codifying, making regular and reliable this communication with realms beyond that would otherwise perhaps be subject to the ebb and flow, the warmth and the woof, whatever the term is, of these ripples in the pond, so to speak, of communication, if it were to happen more naturally, so to speak, such as this, one mind to another. A device enabling that communication to be regular, much more free from any aberrations, much more reliable, able to be accessed virtually at any time by anyone desiring communication with the realms beyond. Reflectivity. Incredibly important concept, especially when one addresses the issue of channeling. Conscious trance channeling. Deep trance channeling. and the entire spectrum of things in between. For indeed, as you've noticed already, there's quite a bit of variety in the various types of conscious trance channels. That is, those you would definitely not consider a deep trance channel. They're still sitting up. Although you found it interesting watching Paul Solomon on video gesticulating and teaching just as if he were sitting up while lying flat on the table, and you wonder, could it be that a deep trance channel could be sitting up teaching, much as Bashar through Daryl Anka, taking over and teaching. And we would simply indicate to you, yes, this is a spectrum, a realm, if you will, of various types of communication. And of course, as you would surmise, there are as many types of channeling as there are channels currently channeling, or who have ever channeled in your realm, in your dimension, on your planet. Yes. For life on other planets almost inevitably involves a change in vibration. So a discussion of your realm is virtually, practically, a discussion of life on your planet. Although, at least on the say for now, we definitely would not preclude the possibility of life you could firmly access and communicate in the flesh, so to speak, on other planets, at other points in this galaxy. For indeed there are such places. For your consensus environment, defined by the physical laws it is defined by, is truly a wide realm encompassing a stretch of space and time, if you will, as vast as the observable universe itself that you see through your telescopes. So indeed, from your perspective, the universe appears barren, largely among your materialistically minded scientific types. The view of the universe is one of almost entirely composed of dead planets in space. That is, not inhabited by what you would consider life, living beings. In the flesh, again, so to speak. Vast stretches of space, yes. The possibility of physical travel to visit other entities, perhaps. Although understand, as indicated in the Paul Solomon readings, indeed travel to distant systems, to distant stars or planets surrounding distant stars was done in your ancient history in Atlantis. Was done by use of devices to transport one instantly at the speed of thought from one point to another. using a psychic bridge of connection, dematerialization, rematerialization, creation and action through the medium of a machine, of a crystal, if you will. A device providing the necessary consistency, reliability, focus of projected thought to enable creation, materialization in a foreign plane, at a foreign location, therefore enabling travel to different vibrational levels. For as you understand, most, by far and away, the vast majority of habitation throughout the universe, you will not see if you travel there in a spaceship in your flesh. For it is on different levels of the multiverse, different, what you would consider different dimensions, different vibrational levels. So a device that we're talking about would enable not only the physical appearance at the distant location, for the sake of truly traveling there and instantiating there in the flesh, whatever type of flesh or existence was appropriate for that environment and the norm for that environment, and enable the entity to truly be there, to truly travel there, to the point where if the means of coming back, traveling back, were turned off or destroyed, such as actually did happen to entities, in the case of Atlantis, that entity would be stuck in that instantiation where they had traveled, in the form they had assumed when they got there. And yes, as you can surmise, would it begin to take on that vibration to the point of beginning to lose the memory of where they had come from, as indicated in Paul Solomon readings as well, where individuals crossing to another dimension begin to experience a fading of the memory of where they had even come from, much as a dream would fade from your memory. Imagine how quickly your dreams fade, if not dwelt upon immediately when waking up. How quickly the experience fades into the background, into the subconscious. For indeed, this is the same thing. When you dream, you alter your vibrational rate. Your consciousness completely alters its vibrational rate to a slightly different level, and experiences all these what you consider very weird things, and then the vibrational rate comes back when you awaken. Even suddenly, if you're awoken for some reason, with a snap, your consciousness snaps back to the vibrational rate of the physical self. And the only way for information to be transmitted from point A to B is that surrounding that time, that instant of passage, a dwelling upon thoughts, dwelling upon, regurgitating, musing over the events of the recent past. And you will note that when the consciousness instantly snaps back, that is when it is the most difficult to remember, for that is when the memories fade the most quickly. And if there is a gradual awakening, a natural awakening from sleep, if you will, on those days when you don't have to set your alarm, you just wake up whenever you wake up, often, then it is much easier to remember much more of your dreams, for there is a much more gradual transition, a lot more time in that in-between state, that transition state, where you can bridge the gap and shuttle information from point A to B. So an individual stuck exploring a different solar system, when they have to change their vibrational rate to interact with the beings there or even survive there. For as you understand, if you were to travel in the flesh to the planet Venus, for example, where hydrochloric acid rain is typical weather, you would definitely not survive very long. Aside from the fact that you couldn't breathe. So yes, to exist in places such as Venus at all, let alone to facilitate mingling with the entities there, would require taking on their form, coming up, so to speak, to their vibrational rate, and instantiating in a form similar to theirs, definitely at the same vibrational level, dimensional vibration as theirs, so that it would be possible to instantiate there, exist, and interact. So you start to see the similarity between astral projection, astral travel, and space travel, if you will. And this would shed light on this mysterious connection between UFO and abduction stories and things, and sightings, and all the parallels with astral projection and astral travel. All the indicators of changing vibrational rate, shifting dimension, for this is exactly what happens. Exactly what happens. The only difference is in well, we would say there is no difference. Simply in your typical astral travels, astral projection, out-of-body experience, you do not typically, individuals have not yet typically projected to environments such as where there is life on Venus, let's say, or Mars, or Jupiter, or Saturn, or pick your favorite place. We are telling you it is possible. It is possible to project to these places and shift to the vibrational level of the entities there and assume a form that they could interact with. Reflectivity. Meditate on this. The parallel between what we've been talking about as reflectivity and this fine art of transporting to another realm and materializing there as a form of space travel, if you will, and then astral projecting to that realm, that is, once you are out of body, using the William Buellman methods to demand clarity now, awareness now, and then using his methods to think about a place. For instance, Venus, life on Venus, entities on Venus. I want to go there now, and boom, you would be there. You would see them. You would be able to interact with them. You're not sure, are you, whether or not you would be able to interact with them? Yes, we are getting to the rub here. What are the difficulties of conscious transcommunication? When the channel is interested in certain subjects, curious or has strong opinions this way or that, or is still bothered by clinging to ideas, truths learned about your environment, etc., it becomes difficult to answer even simple yes-no questions about a certain topic. Could you materialize and interact with the entities, or would they not be able to see you? Perhaps we will have to leave that particular conversation, and how it's not a simple yes or no question, to another discussion. It is a good thing that we do here with you today. So if you insist on thinking of things in terms of your space and time and your particular location on your particular planet at this point. Now, let us say now. It is a good thing we do here with you now. And you listeners, viewers watching this experience, it is a good thing you do in the interaction. Indeed, even a two-way exchange of energy is taking place, regardless of the offset in time. You could be watching this 100 years from when it was recorded, and still, we say to you, a two-way exchange, interaction, a link, a momentary bond, if you will, is formed of connection. Perhaps soul connection or spiritual connection or energetic, vibrational connection, if you will, is formed. Useful, functional. So we can say to you, transmission of energy to you is possible and happening right now with peace and goodwill and benevolence. We will leave you with that for now. For yes, although further communication is possible, we are taking baby steps. The two of us, all of us, in our joint effort here. Not wanting to move too fast, for as you well understand, you, the channel, for instance, are elevating your vibrational rate by very nature of this interaction. And that has its repercussions. That accelerates the flow of the law of attraction, or another way to look at it, facilitates, lowers the barrier of activation energy required. If you're thinking in terms of enzymes and chemical reaction, lowers this barrier to activation energy in the flow of the law of attraction. You could view the law of attraction like this chemical reaction. You launch the rocket of desire, it instantiates. Closing that gap between what you desire and what your vibrational level is now is obviously easier when that vibrational level is raising, is rising, is approaching more rapidly what you want as defined by the connection with your higher self, what is more holy, defined by what is more in sync with your greater source, God within you. The will of God that you so elusively try to find out actually simply being your wants and desires, which are your true wants and desires, that is, not those that are the result of pressures that you imagine upon yourself or twisted notions of the bicameral mind, the true deep desires from the heart. these are the guiding light of your source, the wind, direction of the wind, of the will of God within you. It is always there. You can tap and sense and feel. As your vibrational rate increases, you're in sync with that more and more and more, to where that gap closing between when you launch that rocket of desire and the instantiation of what you desire can be virtually instantaneous. Definitely speeding, as you already are seeing in your waking life. So, definitely don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. And look how we've managed to communicate even more just now. Yes, with God all things are possible. Very fitting phrase. You begin to understand, you begin to see your higher self, your source, your thought adjuster. That portion of God within you that is God, since it has never lost its connection with God. So the higher self, the source, the Holy Spirit within you, you begin to understand. So to all you involved in viewing across space and time, the channel to all involved, for there are what can be viewed as myriad entities on our side here, we would simply like to express gratitude all around. Accept the energy of our gratitude expressed to you now. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you, God. We are through for the present.